Well, good morning and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Use the chat to say hello. Welcome to the 86th episode of Light Bulb Moments, a weekly financial roundtable. I'm Tom Kuhn from Qnity. Remember, money isn't the most important thing in life, but it is like oxygen and they got to have it scale. So our mission really is to help create a clearer path towards financial success and financial wellness and prosperity through an approach that's simple, visual, and actionable. To remember to prosper, manage your ATM. This is our measurement of return on investment. Make sure that you get a high return on your attention, time, and money. And thank you for spending your precious time with us today. We hope you get a ton out of this session. Today, Erin and I are going to have a discussion about the word recession, not just the word recession, but what that could look like going forward. So neither one of us are economists, but we certainly have some points of view and want to start the conversation around that. Our last guest, we had Sonia Eklund joining us. We had a discussion about financial wellness, and I went through an actual story of an individual, which Sonia had some great comments on. Last week I had two light bulb moments that I went through in the call. One of them was about the compensation study. I provided an update on what's going on with that, where we're at, where we're going. I have another update for you very shortly here. Also last week, I shared a money story with you that is it just has so many nuggets in it as to a lot of the things that we're talking about: financial literacy, financial wellness, the need for data, beauty as a first choice career, gaps between perception and reality. It's an epic story. It's a real story. And I think there's a lot of lessons in it. So it should be, if it's not posted on YouTube yet, it will be. So I'm going to give you, before I bring in Erin to the conversation here, I want to spend a few minutes talking about the compensation study. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, here we go. All right. So we had our first set of participant-only sessions yesterday. We had one at 10 a.m. and one at 4 p.m. yesterday, and we had a good chunk of the participating companies join us. We do have another session on June 20th. That's next Monday at 10 a.m. Central Time. That will be the last time that we would do a live version of this. You do need to sign up. You do need to register. There should have been an email that went out. Again, this is only for people that were actually participated in the compensation study. We go through what's included in the study, the presentation, why we did it, why it matters, who participated in the process, protection of data, and then of course, findings. And there's a lot of nuggets, a lot of findings that has come out since there's been some public sharing of some of this information. Some of them are kind of hot off the analyst press. Very interesting and actionable findings. Certainly you're going to want to be part of one of these private calls. We also go through where your company stands, next steps, etc. So findings, of course, is a big, rich part of that conversation. And then next steps, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about next steps right now. We will officially have completed phase 1 of this compensation study, which I would consider to be of great success, with many, many people to thank for that. We will soon be moving into phase 2. We will release some of the findings on more of a public forum very soon on that. We're going to expand the study in scope, size, segments, and purpose. We'll continue a high standard of confidentiality, neutrality, data security, trust, integrity in the process. We will be aligning with some funding and other collaborators, looking to have a coalition of other organizations that have already gotten behind this study, but also, like us, want to take it bigger and better. And then finally, we're also adding to our advisory team. We've asked a CPA firm, Lightheart Sanders, to join the analyst team. We've invited at least one CFO to be part of an advisory board. And so we want to make sure that our process, the methodology, is understood by everybody, and at the same time having the data airtight protected. One more reminder here: if you were part of the compensation study, Join us Monday. That's going to be the last time for us to have a live session. Then we will have recorded sessions if you couldn't make any of the 3 that we already did. So there you go. All right, Erin. So let's see here. I'm going to put this on the screen. All right. Hello, Erin. How are you?
Hello, Tom. Hello, everyone. Good to see everybody today.
Well, Erin, you're the one that came up with this idea for the topic today. And I was initially a little bit resistant about it, but ultimately I see the wisdom in it.
Well, this is a financial roundtable, and with all these talks about recession and, all the fear that's being portrayed, and, some realities are being portrayed, we'd be remiss not to at least discuss a recession on here. And I think, Tom and I, you and I kind of approach these things different. And I think it's interesting to really notice what type of person you are when things like this come out, right? And kind of how you handle news like this, because do you go into a panic, or do you move into preparation, or do you just kind of ignore it and say, you know what, recessions are normal, they always happen, right? So this is just really an organic conversation about it. Neither Tom or I are economists, but we have thoughts on this and we take different actions. So, those of you in the chat, is anyone scared about the recession? Just go and type in the chat. Is anyone paying attention to this? Are they scared, or what? What are your thoughts on kind of some of the things that you're seeing in the media right now as it relates to recession? Go ahead and just use the chat box.
And I would maybe suggest maybe a little different language when you say the recession, meaning that we're in the recession right now, or it's, I think what we're talking about is the need to be proactive in thinking and planning in the event, which many are commenting is highly likely, those that are much more closer to the markets than you and I. And so I think it's a great topic. And so a couple things to tee this up here, Erin. So there was the Great Recession. I guess I didn't realize that that's the official name of it. The Great Recession was between December of 2007 to June of 2009. It lasted a year and a half. And it had been 6 years prior before the most recent recession. The economy was down 5.1% and unemployment got to -10. Okay, so that was the Great Recession. Then we had what's termed the COVID-19 recession, which when you read the data, it technically is only lasted 2 months when you research this. And it had been over 10 years, almost 11 years since the last one. And that's where unemployment dropped by 14.7%. Growth was down by 19.2%. Now, a couple things of note. Qnity was started during the recession. I'm wondering who else started their business during that window of time. And it certainly was not necessarily the best time to start a business, So I do recollect that period and how tough it would be to be starting a business at that time, let alone maintaining them. So,
well, and I recall when we talked on the roundtable, I think it was during COVID, you talked about all the great businesses that actually were built in a recession. Do you remember that roundtable? I'm trying to think of some of those examples, the businesses that were fueled and actually emerged from a period of recession.
Yeah, I mean, with major changes in economic conditions, that also always represents opportunities, And so, a couple more comments about this. So, when it relates to a recession, the most consistent thing I've seen as relates to the beauty industry is frequently the beauty industry is called out as being less recession proof than most other businesses.
Right.
And that's been the COVID-19. Let's leave that one out just for a moment because that was so weird. But all the other recessions, beauty did quite well. So that's number one. And in fact, I've had discussions with bankers and lenders and certain people that actually wanted to get into the salon business because of that. Okay, that's number one. Number two is actually I'm going to save number two to some of the things maybe you can do. Okay. Now, I'm curious about some of the comments here, and because you invited, do you want to read?
Yeah, I can read some of them.
Yeah,
So
let's.
a first one is yes, very nervous. Kevin from Whiteheart Sanders, which is a partner of ours, says somewhat yes. Jan Hill says paying attention, concerned, trying to think ahead. Julie says I'm not scared, but it's on my mind, especially with a second location under construction. Holly says paying attention for sure. Tracy says more curious than fearful, but do wonder if I just don't know what I don't know. Kevin says change presents opportunities. Anne says trying to be smart about and not worry. Good news, employment still low. Businesses have cash, might not be too bad. Eyes wide open. Sam says he's on a bike right now. And then, but listening, July 14th, 2008. I'm not sure what. So anyways, yeah.
Well, now my highest priority is to make sure that Sam Bricado, who is biking through Manhattan right now, doesn't have some catastrophe that's tied, especially our golden light bulb winner, right, Erin?
Yeah.
Great commentary. Erin, there's a few different things to maybe stimulate conversation. So
yeah,
this is your comment here. Is it panic or prepare? What type of person you are? I've already mentioned that. Entrepreneurs are resilient. They love a challenge, and entrepreneurs don't necessarily. Not to say that you're an entrepreneur, whatever, but it's interesting. Entrepreneurs, smart ones prepare. They don't panic. Resilience is a sort of part of the DNA of a entrepreneur. So I'm wondering other people's thoughts about that. I mean, do you think that I think resilience is part of the entrepreneurial journey, and you got to be ready for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go through we'll stimulate a little more conversation around this, Erin, in terms of things to do. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So one is to maintain a forward focus, and so much of financial reporting is historical by basis. A P&L by definition is a history document, and what a forward focus is I'm such a believer in having a forward focus, specifically as it relates to cash flow. And one of the things that we teach in Money SBO is very, very tight cash management. I believe daily,
Well,
So,
I mean, and that was really the essence of this forward focus. It's a principle that's kind of core throughout the Money SBO program. And really what we teach is always having a forward focus as it relates to cash flow. And in times like this, it moves, you push the pulse, right? You push the frequency up. So it's really on a daily basis is what you recommend, weekly or daily. And that allows you to constantly be looking forward and not really looking at the past, but projecting, forecasting, budgeting, all of that good stuff.
it's not necessarily a strength of many small businesses. Many small businesses really are, still struggle when we've got data around that, how few businesses actually have some type of financial plan. Whether you call it a budget, a forecast, a projection, something that is quantifiably looking ahead, and it has, data dumped into some type of model,
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just from a pyramid of skill or priorities, many are just, make sure their payroll bills get paid, payroll's done, financials get issued. And to the extent there's any forecasting, maybe it's just with sales. So I certainly think leveling that skill up is something that's going to help, whether it's a recession, depression, whether you're in a high growth mode. Big fan of that one.
Yep.
Okay.
So this one is really, this is a practice that we teach in, what is now Money SBO. It's also profit. And this is, recommended by many experts really as a practice, is a weekly profit transfer. And that's where you take a certain percentage of your sales and distribute it into a totally separate bank account that's a profit account, right? And so really what we recommend during this time, and Tom, what you recommend is really increasing those weekly transfers. Some people do it 1% of their sales for that week. Some people do 2, some people do 10. And this practice, when we look at the Great Recession, when, and what happened in the COVID pandemic, We had several individuals, and I just put a few that I could think of off the top of my mind, that really had implemented this practice of a weekly transfer into a profit account, a certain percentage of weekly sales. And they had massive cash reserves when they went into the pandemic. And so the peace of mind and the lack of fear and the ability that they had to actually prepare, and they were not panicked, right? And they reflect on different times in their lives when they were panicked as business owners. And so the reality is a chunk of cash in the bank really creates and allows you to feel more prepared and eliminates panic from the entrepreneur, and also makes sure that the team doesn't panic as well. So I think increasing that is hugely, hugely important. And, you know, if you don't, who here does the weekly profit transfer into a separate bank account, a certain percentage of weekly sales? Say yes or no. I'm just curious. Jan does it amazing. So this is something, it takes 2 seconds. If you don't do it, just open up a separate bank account and start to do it. Okay, look at all these people. Oh, Ashley's on the screen here. Ashley does this as well. So it looks like a lot of people do this. Amazing. So consider increasing it, even, you know, if it's a couple percentage points, whatever you can manage. And Tom, you might have some thoughts on that as well.
Well, we should introduce who these people are just in a moment, but I want to throw out a thought to you. So Candice Gliato is a Bay Area salon owner from Citrus, and she is also a Qnity educator. She's opening up her second location. I think she's up in Oregon as we speak. I don't think she's with us this morning, but anyway, one of the things that I love about Candice is she has a streak, and I think it's 7 years. It was like 390 consecutive weeks where she has taken a pause each week, had a weekly meeting, and did some tracking. And every single week she's done a transfer like this for 7 years, never missing a week, almost like, you know, crazy kind of streak, you know. And that type of consistency and that type of performance is one of the reasons why she's an educator for us, you know. Let's go through these 3 humans here, Erin, and you already mentioned Ashley, who's in the center. Hi, good morning, Ashley. I know you're here.
So we've got Laura on the far left. Laura and Ashley are business partners at Tailored Salon. So both of them did this religiously, and they increased their profit. I mean, I think they built well over a 6-figure reserve by doing this practice and implementing it with consistency. And just that practice, not only did they have the cash reserve, but there were other byproducts, because that discipline, it also leads to other byproducts. So this is about finance, but this financial practice also impacts, execution. It impacts staff engagement. It impacts the ability to grow and have a forward focus with grow, because you're prepared for all things. So those are 2 great examples of that. And we have many of them. Again, these were just, you know, some that came top of mind. And Louisa's story, I know we've told this one before, but, you know, Louisa reflected on 2 different recessions in her life and the different places she was in financially, and how really that made all the difference. And so she entered the pandemic with, I think she'd like to be private about the amount, but a very large amount of cash reserve that she was prepared for. And she didn't have to cut anyone on her team. Her team wasn't panicked. And I think, you know, this practice of a weekly transfer is absolutely essential for the business to transfer in a profit account. But this is also something for you as individuals and to do in your household, right? This is something I do weekly as well, just in my own, you know, personal life, and also for your team. You know, if your team's feeling fearful, and you know, it's always dicey when you talk to employees about that, but it's a great practice that just can really set you up for success and make sure you're prepared.
I think Louisa's joined us today too, Erin. So good morning,
hi,
Louisa.
Louisa's owner of Soleil Salon in New Hampshire.
Okay, let's go through another one here. And this one, okay, so when we move into slower growth in the beauty industry, we've seen this again and again and again, is that visits go down. So client count goes down. That's absolutely what happened in 2007, 8, and 9, is that, and it was the data was overwhelming. I remember at the time, Regis was a really big player back then, and most of the annual reports were stressing visits down, average ticket up, visits down, average ticket up. So anyway, At the very beginning of the pandemic, one of the videos I did was to really highlight this, is that you can get growth even in a recessionary environment, because a recessionary environment is so there's less visits to the business, but when they're there, they're spending more money, you know. And once somebody starts getting hair color, you know, they don't stop, you know. They might stretch their visits out a little bit, but they're going to get more. So certainly that is a strategy for the professional beauty industry that I've seen during every downturn. I don't know if anybody else has any comments about that, but certainly when we were reporting data coming, you know, in the early stages of the pandemic, when businesses were opening, it was absolutely what happened. Average ticket was through the roof. Well, a lot of it had to do with distancing too. And there wasn't the ability to have more clients. So anyway, Erin, if I were to come up with like 3 things, just, you know, just to stimulate conversation, it would be the forward focus. It would be the discipline of cash management, weekly transfers, and then adjusting your growth strategy in the moment to address the economic conditions, understanding that average ticket for most is the key when things slow down.
Awesome.
Any
Do you
comments?
have any comments on this?
Yeah, I'd love to see if there's any
Well,
comments.
you know, and it's interesting because when I was doing research around this, a lot of what I found, and you know, it's so funny when you go on the media, is everyone has a different perspective on this. Are we going into recession? Are we not? Right? Everyone has different opinions on this, but a lot of times, what I showed is that many times retail is impacted more than service. I don't know if that's consistent in the data that you've seen, Tom, but that's some of the things at least I've, you know, read in my most recent research. So
yeah, I would say there is some truth to that for sure. Yeah. And now here's a question, Erin, and I'm really going to put this out to all these smart people here, because we've got a lot of smart people joining us every week, and today's no exception. So, and for those of you that are kind of listening in here, I do have a question I want to throw out to the group. So we're in an inflationary economy, and which is I think we're all aware of, and we're also in a human capital. It's called the Great Resignation. There's all sorts of different job crises. There's all sorts of names to deal with shifting in the workforce, and less ability to recruit and retain staff than in the past. So here's my question. If we start moving into slower growth, and that ultimately is going to mean in many industries less jobs, and there's a trickle into households, including households where there's potential workers for these businesses. So my question is, we're in this job crisis right now. What will happen when the economy goes down? Is it going to be, oh, I really want my job? Our candidates are going to go up. People are going to hang on to their jobs. So I don't know the answer to this, but I would love to know if there's anybody in the chat that has a strong opinion about this, or even has some you know, facts around it. But when the economy slows down, I mean, is that going to be the equalizer here? A slower economy to some things going on? Okay, so here we go here. Kelly had more of a question for savings. I'll defer that for at least now, but I don't know, Erin, what do you think? So economy slows down. Staff are migrating in and out of business. They're going employee-based salons, are going solo, et cetera.
well, inflation is up, economy's down. One would think that people would be more apt and want to work, maybe want to work more to cover their costs. And, you know, it's interesting which industries this is going to hit hardest. You know, there's certain industries that almost feel immune to a recession, right? That they don't even pay attention to this. And then there's certain industries that feel really, you know, feel like they're really at risk. And so you know, what Roman said is we've noticed an uptick in hiring. And from what I've talked about with several clients, is that's also what I've heard. There's more candidates and there's more hiring of candidates. So, you know, I don't have data on that, but from recent conversations. And so obviously this is continuing to evolve, but it'll be really interesting to see. how people handle this, and if people are more apt to work, if they want to work longer hours, if they see more value in actually showing up to work, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting. All right. So Tracy, I had a business interview with The Economist. Let me just see what speaking did indicate he thought the recession might settle the labor market down a little bit. Okay. That's I love that terminology, Tracy. Thank you. It's such a nugget the way you put it. Might settle the labor market down a little bit. That's a good way of putting it. Terry says people will seek out strong, sustainable, fiscally responsible companies.
Mhm.
Great wisdom here. Michael's saying, can we still grow average ticket? Yeah, I mean, I absolutely think you can grow average ticket in a downturn economy for sure. That it's been proven. These are great comments, and as it relates to the labor market, the other thing I was thinking about, Erin, when we were, getting ready for today, is non-service provider positions. And one of the keys with cash management is to obviously keep your overhead low, and to keep your fixed costs as low as possible. So I'm just wondering if this might affect how small businesses look at their managers and manager compensation. We've had some discussion about this a little bit, in terms of trying to keep your fixed cost lower, and with members of the team, try to have a nice mix between fixed and variable pay. In other words, a nice competitive salary, but something that's manageable by a company, and make up for higher pay when the money's there through some type of incentive or bonus plan. So I just wonder if anybody's looking at things strategically a little bit different in anticipative downturns. So we'll see if we get any comments on that one.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to throw out is most businesses probably went through a massive price increase, right? And how will that show up given inflation, and given what consumers are thinking about when they spend money on services? So that's just, most people went through a fairly large price increase, right? Many of the clients that we're working with. So it's just interesting, and it's really a conversation, and just to be thinking about.
I know we have someone on this call, and I'm not going to publicly call out her name, but she's a regular on here, and her first name starts with A, and she's in the recruitment business. I wonder if she might indulge us with a little message in the chat about some of the things she's seeing from a recruitment standpoint. So that's a little bit of a private call out for a commentary, because it's this person's full time helping businesses find talent. So this is the whole settling down, Erin. It's just a lot of things that's going on in the labor market just don't make sense, and a lot of fresh data coming out of the compensation study shows this is a very lucrative career. It's a very lucrative career. And just a little thing on last week, everybody. So last week, I'm going to give you sort of the punchline of the story. It was a master stylist who worked for a family member, reached out to me in somewhat of a panic because he and his wife were having money issues, and they thought the money issue was a money in issue, that he was being grossly underpaid by the salon. We did a little math, and what we found out was that his annual compensation is in the neighborhood of $147,000 a year, which would put this individual in the upper 15 percentile. So this is the kind of financial literacy, or the kind of financial just gap in understanding that, is alarming, and it's preventable. All right. And thank you for rising to the occasion, Ann Wheeler. Believe it or not, I've seen more applicants in the last 2 weeks. I feel the tension rising in some stylists, and few are talking about going rental after school. Coincidence? All right. So that was really, I didn't know what the message was going to be. It's not that I was hoping for one. I just was looking for what's going on. So what we're hearing someone on the front line here is that we've got a little bit of an uptick going on. All right. Great comments.
Well, and I think, to add to that with the story that you shared, Tom, is, people do unreasonable things when there's panic and fear, right? People act unreasonably. And so really, making sure the conversation around and your team is educated on the realities of financial literacy is a huge importance to make sure they're not subject to many of the myths and traps, right? And, do something unreasonable, thinking they might make more money going solo, or thinking they need to go work at the salon, 5 miles down because they get paid X amount of dollars more. And really just making sure the conversations are there and that they're prepared and set up for success.
I'm going to share something about my background that I don't talk about very much. And that's a chapter in my life when I was into the financial markets. And I'm going to draw an analogy between today and yesterday. So there was a period in my late 20s when I was a financial trader. I traded in financial currencies. I traded in precious metals. Kind of quirky, grew up in the Chicago area. Most of my siblings were involved with the Chicago Board of Trade, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, et cetera. And so I was burned out working as an accountant most of the year, and I would spend the summers cutting down my hours in accounting, and I would trade currencies and other financial instruments. And what I learned is it is pretty tricky to try to see trends. And it's pretty tricky to really predict where the economy and where things go. The world of small business is different. So many small businesses just ride this wave. The way when you're in the financial markets, you're wired in like by the minute on movement. Depends what type of trader you are. But so much is under the control of small business owners. That is a market. And in my mind, there's just so many missed opportunities in the professional beauty industry, and that even if we were to capture 20% more of the opportunities we missed, not only will our sales go up, but so would our profitability. So anyway, it's a little bit of a rant there, but I do believe that the financial markets are highly unpredictable. They don't necessarily impact many day-to-day small businesses like salons, but they certainly are worth paying attention to.
Yeah.
So, Erin, these are 5 profit principles, and I think what we're going to do today is we're going to keep this. We're going to wrap this thing up probably in about the next 5 to 7 minutes here. We're trying to keep these roundtables to a little bit closer to 45 minutes, especially in the summer. So anyway, profit principles. I think we're going to come back to those in a moment here. But Erin, thanks for being part of the Brain Trust.
Absolutely.
And you've got a podcast starting soon, don't you?
Yes, and it's about money stories. So we'll give you more information on that soon.
All right. So you do get a light bulb. All right. So take it away, Erin. We want to update the community a little bit about some things going on here.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had this conversation to really have an open, organic conversation about what's happening, what may or may not be happening. And so if you need support, we have resources for a few of them. So what we've got for employers, Tom, if you want to advance the slide, we do have a profit and growth group starting as it relates to Qnity in Action. So for those of you, we have lots of Qnity in Action clients that are already on here. But for those of you who don't know, Qnity in Action is where you work with a coach and implement the Qnity tools on a specific gap. So we have a new group starting in July. And we only have 2 spots left, and it's a focus on the track of growth and profitability. So this is where you'll be working with a group led by Candace. You'll be with about 10 other businesses and really taking a heightened focus on profit and growth gaps. So that starts in July. If you are curious about that group, you can message me. We do have 2 spots, so take advantage of it quickly. And in that program, you'll be going through all the profit principles and really starting to implement those in the business. So to me, that's a great action to take as you, if it's something you're interested in, to get prepared going forward and to really take control implementing these profit principles. So Tom, you can go to the next one. If you prefer more live driven education, I know this seems a bit away, but I don't know about you guys, but the months just continue to fly by. So it's not that far away, but Candace will actually be leading this workshop on Money SBO. If you kind of want more of an immersion, that's September 19th and 20th in Minneapolis. So you can register through that, go through it with other businesses. We have some great owners that will be there to really implement the full program, and more of an education versus coaching session.
Just a quick comment on that. Candace is leading that program. I will be there with her. And I will say co-educating might be a little bit overindulgent in my role in that, but I'm certainly going to be there with Candace. We'll have some segments, so it'll be team taught, but Candace and her way of making this information digestible as a small business owner and entrepreneur is precious. So I'm taking a little bit of a back seat in this, but I'll be there. The other thing is update on location. It's actually not in Minneapolis. It will be in Minnesota. It is going to be down in the Bloomington area, so close to the airport. So it will not be in Minneapolis, but it'll be in the Twin Cities, a very convenient location.
Great, thank you. And then for your team, we mentioned about this the talks about educating your team around this. So for those of you who don't know, we've got Money Pro, and I think really, I just want to echo what we shared. Employees want help around personal finances, and they're seeking help from their employers. They learn so much from you already. So we know this is from PwC. 87% of employees say they want help when it comes to personal finances and financial literacy. So that is something to consider. Tom, if you want to advance. We also know that financially stressed employees are more likely to look elsewhere, whether that's through other businesses, whether it's looking at rental. So minimize this variable by providing education is a huge opportunity. And so Money Pro is officially ready to launch. So we are now taking enrollments in this for a July 1 start date. If you have not signed up, please consider doing this. We really want our community to be some of the first to bring this program to their team. So this is a financial wellness benefit for your employees, educating them on financial wellness and financial literacy. But the key thing here is really selling in the benefits of entrepreneurship. So how do they become an experienced greater financial success and wellness as an entrepreneur, i.e. working in your existing business? So really, really impactful program. We're going to be tracking 5 core money metrics: increasing earnings, minimizing spending, eliminating or minimizing debt, improving credit score, and increasing savings rates. So you can also email me to get your team signed up for this. We're super excited about this program. And then, of course, students, I know we've got some schools on here. Michael, I see you're on here. I don't know what other schools we've got, but consider bringing financial wellness or financial literacy to your students. Oh, we've got Linnell on. Thanks, Linnell. So we are at about 90 campuses now that are teaching the next generation of students financial literacy, and they are going to be so much more well equipped to handle. By the way, recessions are natural. It's just part of the reality of an economy. So they're going to be fully prepared, hopefully, to weather, the storms that inevitably happen in business and in life. So those are a few options for you. So thank you. And it's all about preparation, right, Tom?
You bet. Erin, thank you. And I love that we had an opportunity to talk about economic downturns, what that means, to get some input from people here. So yeah, it's awesome. A couple quick sponsor notes here. Pivot Point, they're a sponsor of this roundtable, and they're also the host of our Money for Students course. And then, of course, Lightheart Sanders. I know we have several members of the Lightheart Sanders team joining us each week. Today's no exception. I'm pretty certain we're going to have a member of Lightheart Sanders present at this workshop in the Twin Cities, which is great because they're an important resource that we're also helping to bring to small businesses. So closing thoughts. My best closing thought is, whoops, hold on here, is to first of all, stop my share. And let's see here. For some reason, stop sharing. There we go. Okay. I want to see who's on the call. It's always fun to say hi to everybody. And yeah, okay, we got a great group today. Anna, Andrew, and Ashley, Bill. I believe that's Bill and Linnell. If Bill's part of this, good morning, Bill, to you too. You're up early. Hello, Linnell. Kathy, great to see you on here. Hi, Cheyenne and Dawn and Ginger and Heather and Holly. Jan and Jared and Julie and Karen and Carrie and Kelly and Kelly, Kevin, Louisa, Melissa, Michael, Nina, Roman, Sam. You still on your bike, Sam? Sam, Sharon, Sonia, Terry, and Trent. All right. Great group. Guys, we will see you next week. And thanks for joining us. And we hope that you got something out of this today. Maybe had some light bulb moments. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks much. Have a great rest of the week and take care.